Hey everybody, welcome to the SEO website audit webinar. Want to just thank everybody for taking some time today, just letting everybody get signed in. Hope you're all doing well, and just again want to appreciate everybody here joining us for the webinar. So I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds and let everybody continue to get signed in. Hope you're all doing well. All right, so let's get going. So the purpose of the webinar today is really to support dental practices in getting seen or placed on Google page 1, right? That's the whole point. When someone does a search, you definitely want to be on Google page 1 because otherwise you're not going to be seen. So that's the purpose of this webinar, is to get you on Google page 1. And we want the outcome to really be whether or not you're Google friendly. We want to make sure that you're Google friendly. We're going to explain what Google friendly is. So if you don't know, we're going to have that cleared up. Super excited about today's webinar because when someone's doing a search on your website or doing a search in Google, we want to be sure you're being seen and that Google has really recognized you as a friendly website, as a friendly dental practice. I have the ultimate pleasure to work with one of the coolest guys in the world, Naz from Dental Focus. And what I can tell you about Naz and why I really love working with him is because I think we share a lot of the same values. But most of all, in my dental experience, you bump into a lot of different webinar and website and SEO supporters, and I can't find anybody or any organization like Dental Focus as honest as these guys are. Their team is just really clear, clean about how they're going to get your results. They really dig deep. It's not about the sale. It's just about getting you to where you want to go, how you want to grow as a practice. So I am super excited to introduce a guy with ultimate integrity, clear honesty, great values, a very smart, intelligent man, Mr. Naz.
Brian, thank you very much. You made me feel really welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate you making yourselves available so late in the evening for this. I too must say, working with you, Brian, it's been an immense pleasure. It's so fantastic to find individuals who have the same priorities in making sure that they are fully in service to our clients and helping to get the best possible results for our clients. And that's what you and the guys at 7 Connections do. So thank you very much for working with us and looking after our mutual clients and your clients, of course. So a little bit about myself. A full-blown techie, learning to be less technical in my communication. So if I do go a bit techie, I apologize in this. So first and foremost, I love Google. The world is powered by Google. It's the number one organization, and it's there to serve and benefit us all. And it's really important that we can use Google to help our clients get results. And that's why I've taken the journey that I have taken with my academic path. So I've completed pretty much all of the Google qualification certifications. I'm a Google certified marketeer. I've completed their Squared online course. So if you want to call me a square, I won't be upset. You have full permission to do so. I'm also a member of the Chartered Institution for IT in the UK, and a Cisco certified architect. That means I understand the fabric of the internet, not just websites as well. Over to you, Brian.
Naz, thank you. Naz is definitely the most qualified guy I've met. So that's why we're doing this webinar. So let's get on with it. It's like, why does Dental Focus and 7 Connection partner? I mean, Dental Focus does an amazing job of building incredible websites, and they do an amazing job of getting people to your website. So 7 Connections, we support practices in many different ways as well, partly in paid traffic or paid per click. This helps drive specific patients to certain treatment searches. But most of all, where we really work together is in building nurture sequences for those websites and for those SEO searches. So if you have people getting to your website, they might be booking right away, but there's also a percentage of people that don't book right away. So we build nurture email sequences that help keep those prospective patients engaged and educated so that as they're making their decision, they're being communicated to, and they still make that decision with you, whether it's for an implant or a crown or whatever type of dentistry you're doing. So that's one of the biggest reasons why we saw the fit to be working with Dental Focus, aside from the fact that you're just a great organization, you do quality work, and we learn so much from Dental Focus and the team, and we hope that you too learn from us. And Naz, do you want to say anything about our partnership?
We're very blessed. We're very fortunate with the background that we have. So we have a family background in dentistry. So uncle, who's now retired, was a specialist in prosto, endo, and perio. His daughter is a practicing dentist. So dentistry is part of our blood. It's part of our DNA. We've been in this industry solely focused on dental for over 15 years. We've created over 600 websites. And I would bet my bottom dollar we've got more clients on Google Page One than anyone else in the UK.
Awesome, Naz. Thank you. So I'm going to let you go ahead and start.
So what we've got here, Brian, it's a simple diagram to show the relationship between Dental Focus and the client and how it will benefit them. So the whole idea is visibility. For marketing, you want patients to find you. You want to attract your ideal patients, and those patients can find you via two common methods. One is Google's SEO, search engine optimization, and the other is taken care of by 7 Connections, is Google pay-per-click. So the whole idea is these patients are then driven to a beautiful website which is mobile and tablet friendly, and this is extremely essential because at least 50% of your patient base and those patients with expendable income who can afford the treatments that you want will be on those devices. Now the guys at 7 Connection then take it to another level where they've got a live chat application that will work on your website, allow you to engage with your patients to build the relationships, and if they don't come in straight away, to drop them into the nurture sequences that Brian and the guys have set up. Would you mind elaborating on that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, again, just to reiterate about the nurture sequences, it's very simple. I mean, it can be complex. It depends on the level of what you want to do with these kind of sequences. And when I say a sequence, it's a series of emails that support a patient that has visited your website or has done some sort of click on an advertisement or a download of a white paper. They receive that white paper, they receive the information that they're looking through via email, and they receive a number of emails along the way that continue to provide them with that information, as well as an opportunity to book that appointment. In some cases, these emails will have health benefits or just how it works. So how does an implant work? Who's a candidate? And it allows the patient to gain that trust that they might not have had. And one of the biggest things about it is that with Google, you have so many websites that you can visit. And if they're not being communicated to, they're going to move on. They're going to go look for another website because they might visit something tonight and they might visit something tomorrow night. But having that continual communication to the patient will allow them to make that decision over time and build that trust and educate them. And what it does, and as this slide shows, it translates to patients converting.
Absolutely.
As we move on, we want to really know what the heck is SEO.
Thank you for asking that, Brian. So in simple terms, SEO means search engine optimization. It's the art of ensuring search engines can find you, read you, and love you.
Perfect. How does it work?
So there's various search engines globally. Google is the most dominant player. They have roughly about 86% of the UK market. Search engines essentially are software applications that will crawl the web. They will look at every single page that is on the internet, and throughout the various computers and databases around the world, those pages are stored in a directory, essentially the index. Now, when a user decides to type in a query, so for example, if a patient decides to type in for dental implants in your town, Google will then determine which pages are most relevant and present those pages to the patient that you're listing in Google Page One within the top 10 listings that Google would show.
So you have to be relevant. You have to stand out somehow in Google's world in order for that search to really appear who you are, who that practice is to that patient that's doing that search.
Absolutely, Brian. So, if you don't have a page for dental implants and you provide it in your practice, why is it not on your website? How is Google going to know about it? You could be the best dentist in the world, but if your website doesn't reflect this, Google will not know about it.
So this slide shows us really the relevance of digital marketing.
Yes, and it's the impact that it's making and how it's overtaken other marketing mediums to benefit businesses. So as successful business people, dentists recognize things will change, time will change, and it's about adapting and evolving so you don't get left behind. And many dentists historically would have taken traditional print magazine marketing, as we can see on the right-hand side. But what we are also seeing is the significant decline in the demand, the circulation for print revenue. So from 2010, it has been declining significantly. And on the left-hand side, what we can see now is that the UK, in comparison to everywhere else pretty much, in all honesty, the UK is probably the most dominant country in the Western world for search marketing. So if you're very serious about growing your patients, taking business to the next level, getting more treatment orders and increasing the uptake, you need to look at digital marketing. And the two strongest areas from that are Google search engine optimization and pay-per-click.
So as you know, you keep hearing pay-per-click, we call it paid traffic. We wanted to make sure that we distinguish the two so that you can see, and just hang in there. We're going to get to the audit, but we wanted to really establish what SEO is. We want to establish what paid traffic is, because these are the two vehicles right now that are supporting prospective patients in getting the information that they need to move forward with the treatment that they're looking for. So Naz, you explain it so well. Just break down what SEO is versus paid traffic.
Sure, great, thank you. So paid traffic is kind of like cosmetic surgery. It's instant results. You pay for the outcome. You know how it's going to look, how it's going to work, and it's just a case of maintaining that all the time. You know, investing again in cosmetic surgery throughout the years. SEO is kind of like going to the gym. So you need to actually physically do the exercise. You need to work at it to achieve that beautiful body, and then you know those results are more sticky. They're more long term. So what we have here, Brian, is Google giving us some data, and what we wanted to do was we want to identify the demand. So clients, before they decide to invest in marketing, they would want to identify the demand. For example, if you were to invest £1,000 in facial aesthetics per month and you weren't getting any returns, it's because you didn't segment your audience. So we've got a classic example here of what can be found for Google. So the phrase that we've typed in is Braces London, and we want to qualify the revenue opportunity. What Google is telling us, on average, over a 12-month period, there are 260 searches. Now, a nugget to share with you, because of the Data Protection Act, Google does not reveal all this information. You are probably seeing 1/10 of the actual figures. What Google is telling us, though, is the competition is very high, and on average, Google is recommending you to spend £5.22 per click. So what does this mean for you? So if you were to generate those 210 extra visitors to your website, and a typical practice should be looking to bring in 15 inquiries out of that with a good, well-made dental-focused website which is emotionally compelling. From those inquiries, if we were to just be conservative and say you would get 6 patients signing up for a typical braces case, which averages around £2,500 in London, that would generate you an extra £15,000 in revenue. So if you consider your pay-per-click budget spend for those 210 clicks at £5.25, my maths is not best, but roughly around £1,100, that's generated you £15,000 in revenue. It's a fantastic business. So what is SEO doing differently? Well, the main thing is that the results are long-term. Your pay-per-click campaign, your paid traffic campaign, the monthly budget may vary. You would have seen in the previous slide, some months there would be more traffic than others. So you could essentially be spending more or less per month, and it may be slightly more difficult to plan out your budget, or there's a danger of your ads stopping sometime in the day. With a natural listing on Google, if you've achieved that through SEO, if you're on page 1, you are on page 1. You don't need to worry about that disappearing later on in the afternoon. What you also want to consider is that not everyone buys first time round when they click on your website. So if a patient is going to be clicking on your website 4 or 5 times, and you've not set up a nurture sequence in Infusionsoft, which Brian and the guys at 7 Connection do, you are paying every time for that patient to land on your website. But with Google SEO, once they land and they come back, they will still find you at the top.
This is a slide that just sticks out because it really shows how big Google really is. Just break it down for us.
Yeah, Google is an absolute phenomenal beast, and their market share is growing significantly. On average now, there's 4 billion searches a day on Google. It's astonishing. And what we know is 93% of all consumer buying decisions start with search. So if you are investing in any type of traditional marketing, if there's any kind of a stimulus, so you've seen an ad, you've seen a listing, you've heard something on the radio or on the TV, or I was to recommend a restaurant to you, Brian, would it be fair to say you'd do a search on Google for that?
100%. I mean, I can't avoid not searching before I make a step out the door sometimes. How do I get to the next place I need to get to? I got to search it on Google.
Absolutely. So this our consumers are primed to go onto Google first, and the evidence is out there. 93% of consumers are now starting their journey with Google. So if you're not on Google, what are you missing out on? If you're not on Google page one, what are you missing out on? And the evidence also indicates that 91% of all consumers look at reviews. Google has their own reviews platform. People will only transact based on trust. So it's very important that they trust you, Google trusts you, and therefore you can be found on Google page one. All of that being said, we cannot discount the power and the revenue opportunity from Google pay-per-click. It is the fastest growing area of advertising. Google made nearly 67.40 billion through pay-per-click in 2015 alone. So that is some very compelling evidence to show that it does work and there is a growing demand for it. If we look at your traffic to your website overall, on average, the majority of the traffic will always come from organic. So it's best to then go on an SEO campaign and focus to be found for your specific patients instead of various general queries. So if you want to ensure more of that 65% is coming for your preferred patient base, you've got a much better chance of getting a return. And bear in mind, with Google SEO, the results are sticky.
Cool. Give me a sticky result.
So, for example, we've got a client in Milton Keynes. They ran an SEO campaign 3 years ago for 2 years consecutively. They've not been on SEO and they still dominate Milton Keynes. And they're not spending any money for pay-per-click or anything else.
So this is where we get technical. This is where we really are looking at how does it work. So Naz, explain what these backlinks are and how this all comes together.
Sure. So if from a business perspective, we want to be the most popular person in the playground. And what's a good way of defining popularity? It's your following and the popularity of your followers, the strength of your followers. So first we've got to look at what is the components of SEO. First and foremost is the content on your website, which the human eye will see. Then it's the on-site SEO. So this is the technical coding only Google sees. It's not for the human eye to see, but Google reads this and Google understands. And the core of your search engine optimization is by backlinks, essentially your following on the internet. This is where you win the popularity contest, and you can achieve a variety of backlinks to your website. And that will help to influence Google and show you to be the most relevant and authoritative.
So this is a result. Explain.
Yep. So what we've got here is a page one listing for a client who's out in Barnsley. The phrase typed in was dental implants Barnsley, and what you can see is they dominate Google page one. At Dental Focus, our clients expect to dominate page one. This particular client, they've got the one map listing, bearing in mind what we said about 91% of all consumers read the reviews, and you can see this client has 4.8 stars and 11 reviews, and they also have 2 natural listings as well. Just to take it to another level, what we will see now on the next slide is this is not just a one-off. We also have this in competitive locations as well. So here, for example, is a client in Harley Street who has multiple listings again on Google page one for Harley Street Dental.
I mean, Harley Street, you got to admit, it's people search that out because it's the standard.
Yeah, it is. From a Google perspective, it's the cream of the crop in terms of demand. And if you're paying for Google pay-per-click, your investment would be significant. But then your patients, you've got to consider what they will be willing to pay back in return for that treatment as well.
So as we're getting closer, before I get into it, I wanted to make sure that I just check in with some people. We're going to get into the audit. Wanted to see if there's any questions out there. Ben, is there anybody who's typing in or, give a couple of seconds for a couple of questions. So we have a question. What's a good backlink? Oh, what's a good quality backlink from France? So Naz, you're definitely the best person to answer that question. Go ahead.
So it's a really good question. What's a good quality backlink? What we've got to consider is Google, being a piece of software, reads text, doesn't see any pictures. So your content should be text-based, preferably, and then it should be on a high-quality, authoritative website. So good quality backlinks would be coming to you from a a press release, an editorial, a publication, a video on YouTube where the content on the page with that text is optimized. So it's coming from a trusted, reputable source. Google sees you talking about them, and that then helps to push you up the pecking order.
Awesome. So, Ben, check in with Fran. Does that answer her question? Thanks. Yeah. Perfect, Naz. Thank you. If there's any more questions, just let me just check with Ben. No questions. All right. So we're gonna continue on, and we're gonna look at why the heck would we do an SEO and website audit? I mean, you want to just touch quickly base.
Absolutely, Brian. Yeah, thank you. This is a really good question. So, first and foremost, if you run a business, you would want to know how your business is operating. It's the same thing with a website. If you have a website, you want to know what Google thinks of it, how well healthy is it, and what improvements can you make. And what we are establishing is that, as a dentist, you may have bought a practice and you've inherited the website. And historically, there could have been bad SEO on there, unethical, black hat SEO. So the real danger now is that your website is then removed off Google. Or, if you're paying for an SEO campaign, you don't know what they're doing, and there's a danger of them doing negative activity, which could, again, remove you off Google. So then the question is, what's the financial risk?
Right. So So you're saying you can get penalized.
Yes.
And a penalty would take you straight off Google.
Yes, absolutely. So if a manual penalty by Google, you disappear off Google, you'll be appearing on Yahoo and Bing. A worst case, on typical situation, you disappear from Google page 1 to page 10, and you've got to then work to clean it all up.
Right. So that's one of the major benefits of doing an SEO and website audit is to keep you from entering any kind of penalty. And we're going to do an audit, so you're going to see also all the other benefits as well. But that's a good thing to know. So an audit will determine what? Naz and I are going to kind of take this down with you. Obviously, Naz is the expert here, so I'm just going to let him kind of address, what this audit really is going to provide. And are you Google friendly? So that's what we said in the beginning of the webinar. Are you Google friendly? And again, what is Google friendly?
So can Google actually find your website? Can Google read your website? Do you have an open door? Or is the door closed and saying, no, Google, you may not enter? Right.
Basic.
Mm-hmm. So what we'll also identify is your website health. So at least 50% of all visitors to your website now come from mobile tablet devices, especially the patients with expendable income who are going to go for your high-end treatments. They're on their iPads and their tablets, and we must ensure that you are able to serve them. And you've got a fast enough experience being provided to those patients. If it's taking 7 seconds, they're going to leave. What we'll also look at is the information on each one of those pages Google friendly, and is there any broken links on those websites? So if a patient's clicking on the testimonial and they're not taken there, that's going to frustrate them and they're going to leave, and Google does not like that as well.
So doing this audit's kind of like checking your blood pressure or having a dental consult.
Yeah,
absolutely. Let's look inside the mouth and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Is your on-site and off-site SEO truly set up? So this is where I always have to be reminded of what on-site and what off-site is.
Yes, sure. So the on-site is for your exact website address. So for example, if we went with briananderson.com, what's the content on there, and is that been set up correctly? So we would audit that. And then also what content is on the internet linking or talking about briananderson.com. So that's your offsite SEO. We're using both areas to influence Google.
So the stuff that's on the site and the stuff that's obviously off the site.
Absolutely.
This is tricky. This goes back to like where the no-nos are, and this goes back to what you're saying about possibly getting a penalty.
Yes.
Right? So do you have unethical or negative SEO?
Yeah.
Can you explain just this?
Yeah, so unethical would be bad practices which Google does not approve of. It's common knowledge that certain SEO companies will try to cheat the Google system. Google gives guidelines on what is good practice, but they don't give the recipe away. And historically, there was a trend where if you were to buy backlinks to your website, you could expect improvements. And then people just started selling them left, right, and center. I'll sell you 1,000, I'll sell you 10,000, I'll sell you 20,000. But that is just creating spam, and there's no auditing process at that stage. It's not good practice. So Google's just penalized everyone who's buying all those backlinks. Negative SEO, again, it could be SEO that you are commissioning someone to do for you, but it will give you some immediate wins, but in the long term, it's going to damage you when Google does come around to investigating everything. So it could be that a link from an adult website which has a lot of traffic suddenly helps to boost your traffic, but in the long term that has no relevance with dental and you'll be penalized for that.
Quality of backlinks. So this kind of goes back to like Fran's question. The quality of backlinks to your website, how relevant, how trusted they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
What keywords or phrases do you appear for on Google?
Yeah, this is really essential. If you want to grow your business and you want to get more patients for a certain treatment, you would want to ensure that you appear for those phrases. You have the best visibility. And if you are suddenly getting lots of patients coming for a treatment that you don't provide or you're not so keen on, why is that? And this will help you to potentially identify that too.
Is your website really mobile friendly?
Yeah, this is a really good one, Brian.
But tell me why it wouldn't be mobile friendly.
So mobile friendly, that term is thrown around. It's absolutely imperative your website is mobile friendly because 2 years ago, Google, as an organization, they don't disclose much, but they said every single page on your website must be mobile friendly. Now, what we've got to consider is people have different internet connections when they're on mobile. In London, we're very fortunate to have 4G, but out in the countryside, you might have a slower connection. You see your website loading on a mobile, you think that's great, but what about your common patients or your average patients? Are they able to experience that website or not? Or does it take a long time for it to load? People's expectations now, the page should be loading in as little as 3 seconds. And if it doesn't, they're going to go back out to Google.
Provide action points for improvement. So yeah, obviously an audit's going to tell you this is how you can improve, right?
Yeah.
Simple stuff. Here we go, guys. Okay, so this is it. This is the audit. This is where Dental Focus has broken our SEO and our website apart and have looked at where we're working, what things could be improved, some critical areas you could see there. We got, this is the first page of the actual report, and this is exactly what you would get because you're attending this webinar. We want to make sure that you get the opportunity to have this kind of audit. We want you to see what's out there. We want you to grow as a business. So Naz, just take us through the first page briefly because we're obviously going to break it down section by section on this page.
Sure. So the first page is a summary of what we've identified, the health of the website, the trust of the website from Google's perspective, from a social media perspective, what are the good points, what are you doing well on, areas for improvement, critical issues, and how does Google see you in terms of your page loading on mobile devices. With the additional pages, the recommendations that we will be giving with this report, we break them down when we actually say what are these recommendations. Here we just have the bullet pointed summary of them.
So here's that first section, the domain analysis.
Yeah. So the domain name in English is 7connections.com. The website address is your domain. And what we want to do here is we want to identify the health and the trust signals. So there is no malware, which is fantastic. Malware essentially is malicious software which can take down your website or steal the information from your patients. So if they're sending across emails with medical sensitive information, that could be detrimental to you from a compliance perspective too as well. What we're also looking at is the IP address. So what is the actual address Google sees? They're seeing the website address, not just a random sequence of numbers, and the location. So the location here, Brian, you asked me about this earlier, and why is it blank? Is because we identified the website was not hosted in the UK. It was hosted in the US, and it's really important to have your website hosted in the same country because two things. Number one, it will speed up the experience. A patient from the UK will not have to connect with a computer in the US, and number two, Google looks at this as well. Fortunately, you've got a US hosted website, but Google will look at, is your website hosted in a country which does not speak English, and that looks unnatural to Google as well. On the right hand side, we've identified some very good points which are helping, and that this indicates the health of the website is very good. So the robots.txt file is a file which essentially says to Google, yes, you can come in and read our web pages, or you cannot. Or if there's any certain pages you want to block out, that's where you would notify Google through. We've also got the out attribute set up. So if you recall earlier on, I said Google cannot read pictures, but there is a way of you influencing Google by assigning a value to each picture on your website, and that's with the out attribute, and fantastic, you guys have done that. And also we can see the second bullet point there, And this, in simple terms, means that you are not duplicating your website. What many website owners do not realize is that there could be two versions of your website Google reads, one with www in the address and one without the www in the address. The reality should be one of these should always redirect to the other one.
So hold on. So if you type in www.yourwebsite or type it without the www, this is a good way to test if it's duplicating.
Yeah. So
and why wouldn't you want to duplicate?
Because then Google's suddenly seeing duplicated versions of every single one of your pages, and Google hates duplication. So
duplication is a no-no.
Duplication is a no-no.
So really quickly, explain what like the people that are on right now could actually do this little exercise and check if their site is duplicating.
So you go to your website address, take out the www and the full stop and press return. Does it go back to the www? If it is, then it's reverting. Or you might have set up the other way where you have no www. So in this instance, then you just need to type in www. Press return and see if it's redirecting. If there is no redirection and you're seeing two different versions and you can browse and go to more pages in each one of those versions, you've got a duplication issue. Or you just request the audit and we'll find out for you.
Cool. Yeah, definitely try that out. I've never done it before, and I think that would be important. That's a good value to come out of the webinar with, is to take that little test. And then you have Flash not found. Now we know talk a little bit about Flash, and then let's let our viewers and our watchers of this webinar know what Flash is. And
sure, good question. So Flash, in simple terms, is rich media which Google cannot see. Like videos, animations. Historically, about 6 years ago, Flash websites became very popular, but Google cannot read a single page on your website, so it's not Google friendly. What we are looking for is there Flash on your website, and if there is, the downside is there's just blank pages or blank sections on your website on a mobile, which is terrible user experience.
So if you have Flash on your website,
mm-hmm.
Google's not reading it.
Yeah.
Google is where everybody goes to search for things, and if the website is not friendly, you're probably not going to get found. So again, if you have Flash on your website, get rid of it. Naz and I are here to help you. If you don't know what Flash is, give us a call. Email me, say, hey, Brian, check out my website. Again, you're going to get an audit if you're on this webinar. So no Flash. Doesn't work. Majestic.
Yes, Majestic is one of the most trusted third-party tools on the internet for SEO nerds like myself. So we spoke earlier on about trusting links and looking at the backlinks coming to your website. So what we can pick up from the Majestic platform is there is 855 backlinks coming to the 7 Connections website. So that's a large number of links. So then we need to identify, are any of them toxic? Could they hurt your SEO? Or are they valuable? And we can also see that your website itself, 58 pages of that website have been stored in Google's memory. The more pages you have in Google's memory, the more Google is valuing you. So what we look at is a citation flow. That means the links that come into your website, what's the trust of those particular links? So those particular links, 23 out of 100. It's not phenomenal. It's not terrible. This is not the BBC for a website in this space without any considerable SEO. Nothing to be alarmed with. The next part is the trust flow. So those links themselves, so the content within those links, which is now coming to your website, how trusted are they? And your citation flow should always be higher than your trust flow, because it's easier for you to get more links to your website than to get more trust appearing on your website, because you need high value links coming in all the time.
How do you get more trust?
Highly trusted websites linking to you. So the BBC is a very trusted website. If you can get a link to your website from the BBC or a school or a university, that's trusted. That will increase the trust.
How high can I go on trust?
99.
And we're an 8.
You're an 8, yeah.
So we need some linkage.
You need some good quality linkage. So it's not about quantity, it's about the quality. What we've got on the right-hand side now is where we've identified areas for improvement. So, we've established that the pages load a little bit slow. There's some content optimization. So certain keywords that you want to be found for could be added on the website. Your footer, the bottom part of the website, there's some optimization there as well, because Google does look at that information. And setting up Google Webmaster Tools. So this is another industry standard platform Google uses, and which will allow you to see the health of your website.
Offsite and backlinks. We did that.
Yeah. So here now we've got how mobile friendly are you really? So we said earlier on, it's about that 3-second impression, and bear in mind people have different connection speeds on desktop and mobile. So out of 100, what's the score you're getting for those users? And lo and behold, we have the results. So what we also have at the top is the social analysis. So Google will only pick up certain profiles, not every single profile. And the reason for that is because some people have hidden profiles and some people have public profiles. And the reason we look at this is because it's an indicator of how much people trust you. And if people trust you, Google will trust you as well. So it's very healthy. There's 45 likes and there's 97 shares of your content which Google can view. So this is really good. We then look for critical issues, so important issues which will benefit the SEO of your website. And one of the at the top we can see is we found out there was no sitemap. So the sitemap is a flat file which is an index, a directory guiding Google on which other pages on your website and how to go and find them. We're just making it very easy for Google. The next two fields are regarding optimization. So this is on the back end of the website. This is not for the human eye. This is more for Google. So this is how you tell Google this page is about this and I'm relevant for this. And Google does pull this content up and it presents it on the search engines when your website appears on the 10 engines. You've got the description. Google's pulling this information up as well. We can also see your blog needs optimization. You guys do some really good blogging. You're very active with your blogging, but there's some optimization that's needed with the blogging as well. And overall, out of 100, the domain authority is 30. So a good way to increase this would be through SEO. Yeah, so then the final part, the page speeds, just to repeat, was for out of 100, how fast does your website load to give an experience to users on desktops and mobiles? And a good range would preferably be around the 80% mark. This section will always be evolving because people are coming up with faster devices all the time and Google is always rapidly evolving as well. But if you've seen yourself flatlining and you've been at 50 for a year, you've got a serious problem. You need to improve on that.
So how fast should our so it says our desktop is at 60. We should be going both our desktop and our mobile at what?
Aiming for 80.
Aiming for 80. So we should be going as 80. And if we're not, what's happening?
You're not giving your users the best experience. It's probably taking a bit too much time for the website to load.
So they're just gonna walk away.
Yeah.
So, and you said it was like
it's about 3 seconds.
3 second.
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
Okay, so we got to go faster.
Yeah.
Our website needs to go faster.
Yeah, let's go 80 miles an hour, Brian. So the audit was to show you the summary of everything, and now we're just going behind the scenes to show you how we're establishing and extracting some of this data. So on the right hand side, what we've got is we've got the trust flow and the citation flow for the 7 Connections website. So we can see the line in the middle and we established the trust and the number of citations the website had. And to put this in perspective, we've compared this against the most trusted website on the internet, which is Google on the left hand side, and we can see the trust flow on Google is 99, the citation flow on Google is 98, and they've got roughly over 16 billion backlinks coming to their website. So no wonder they're the #1 website on the internet. So when we also compare the trust flow and the citation flow of Google, we can see the mapping and notice that they're not going far off, they're near to each other as possible. And that should be the case here as well. Unfortunately, as I said, although the trust and citation flow wasn't very high for 7 Connection, they are close together, so there's no area for concern. But if you suddenly had your trust down at the bottom with only about 3 or 4 and your citation was totally packed out, that would look suspicious. That is your fast track to get into trouble with Google.
So this is 7 Connections here on the right side.
Yep.
In comparison to Google is just basically everybody's on it, so it's going to have that.
Yeah, and everybody's linking.
So have we seen any dental websites that can appear much better than 7 Connections?
Yes. I mean, bearing in mind, they're investing in SEO as well, or they're putting the time in to build the resources and improve their visibility. Yes. So we spoke about links as well, and what we do with our reporting, we present it to you in a very condensed version, but we do look at the number of links that are coming to your website. So what we can see on the left is the most recent links. And in the middle, we're seeing the trust flow and the citation flow for those links as well. So, how valued is it if the links have been deleted recently? and when were they found, when were they deleted, or when were they updated as well. And this is something we would look at too. And on the next page, we'll have an example of one of the backlinks. So what we found here is on glasshouseclinic.co.uk. On their website, they have a link to you. So Google sees this as a backlink. And the beneficial factor is that this is a dental website. They're in the healthcare and in dental, and Google sees this as being relevant to your sector. So it's a good quality backlink for you.
Cool.
So then we break down the backlinks as well. So on the left-hand side, we are seeing the variety of links. Google likes to have varied links come to your websites. That's what Google likes to see. Pretty much all of the links coming to your website at the moment are text links, and there are some images. What you may also find is that there might be videos or press releases or editorials, PDFs, publications as well, and that would be typical of an SEO campaign. We would investigate if there was anything unnatural here, and we would advise you of this as well. And we're also looking at how many may have been deleted or were live. And the reason links would typically be deleted is because the website has gone down, the page has been removed, or you've actually requested them to delete the link because you have identified you have bad SEO. So on the right hand side now is what we look at is the phrases that you appear for. Statistically, you want to ensure at least 30% of all the anchor text, so the links to your website, use that use your brand name. Unfortunately, this is the case. So the majority of the links to your website is 7connections or 7connections.com with your various different domain extensions. We also can see a growing area of links for junk food. So that may be a bit of a concern to me. And that could be from a blog article you've written internally. So there's been a piece, Google's seen, there's a lot of traction, there's a lot of visitors for that article. And the best way to tackle that would just be to increase your links for other areas by writing more articles for more relevant things, thus ensuring you don't risk appearing for junk food in the future.
All right, guys, there it is. There it was. We just broke it down. You just saw pieces of the complete. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are actually included in the audit. And for you that are on the webinar, we appreciate you being here. You will get that. I wanted to take a few seconds to a few minutes to really check in with everybody again and ask any questions that may be burning right now. Ben, let's just go and see who we got a questions from. And, this is where, when you're asking questions, this really supports people that are, not really, maybe they're not thinking the same thing you are. So your question is actually going to support them in something that they didn't even think about. So let's see. Ben's saying that, can you get perfect 800 score? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you get a perfect SEO score? Naz, how can you do it? Is it possible?
I don't believe in perfection because it's always changing. What's perfect today may not be the case tomorrow. So at this present moment, you might get a fantastic score, but Google is always evolving. The algorithm is always changing. So you're not going to hold on to perfection unless you're evolving.
Okay. Ben, just check in with Gem if that answers her question.
The main thing I'd just like to add to that is, bearing in mind, as we've identified, Google is so important and not everyone is fully optimizing. The real question is, do you need to be 100% perfect, or do you need to ensure that you're doing better than everyone else to be found?
Thanks, Naz. Perfect. Okay, we got another question. Can you go over blogging again? And
is it 300 words?
Okay, and what's the word minimum? Is it 300 words? Can you go over what that was again?
Yes, absolutely. So what we identified with certain practices and websites we've inherited, they didn't have the greatest guidance with blogging, and Google doesn't like empty pages. So if you've got a page with 2 sentences and a picture, that provides no value to Google. So the recommendations are you should have a minimum of 300 words, so it's meaty enough for Google to see and read, and there should be certain factors you should consider. So for example, if you're going to be found for a certain treatment or phrase, we'd encourage you to put that particular treatment phrase in the title and as high up as possible in the article, and somewhere within the body of that have a link going to that treatment page, and then distribute this on Facebook and Twitter.
Perfect. Ben, how are we doing? Any other questions, guys, out there? Remember, again, your questions help others learn more about SEO and website audit. So if there's,
Or get more backlinks.
how do I? Oh, we got another question from Maddie. How do I get more backlinks?
So the best way is to go into an SEO campaign. You can start with local SEO, so you could look at any local businesses, directories, Google Plus page, a Yelp page. Look at any press release sites. You can start from there, but then it's about identifying that they are suitable backlinks and they're of a high quality as well.
Awesome. Ben, just check in and just see if that answers Maddie's question. And is there another one coming in?
How can I get, how many new patients do I need to grow a practice?
Oh yeah. So how many new patients do I need to grow a practice? And like, obviously, you obviously need new patients, right? Most practices really grow from having a foundation of patients. You're doing hygiene, you're having your yearly or bi-yearly hygiene appointments and doctor consult appointments, and typically practices, have that foundation. And then you have practices that obviously need new patients, because some of those hygiene patients and those foundation patients, they either move on or pass on, or just choose another practice. So you definitely need new patients coming in. And typically on an average, we look at like a good average of 20 patients per month coming into the practice. If you take 20 patients per month, times them by the average value of a patient, which is about £1,750 per patient, and times that by 12, that usually typically provides a very sustainable production revenue. I mean, Naz, I know there's a lot of stuff that we can answer about this question. Do you want to just key in on new patients?
Yeah, so the way we look at, Brian, I mean, you're absolutely right with your approach there as well. The way we look at, we take more of a holistic approach based on the business needs. So for some clients, they don't want, they're happy for the bread and butter, but they know that the implant patients or all the patients will help to take their business to the next level. So then the target is based around that. And the reality is, 5 implant patients, what's the revenue you can expect from that compared with 20 general dental hygiene patients? And then the question is, how many of those patients do you actually need to see, because we have to consider your conversion rate as well. So we always take it from a holistic approach based on the practice needs or the associates needs, if the practice needs to keep the associates busy, and also the situation of the practice. So for example, if you've just purchased a practice, you want to ensure that you sustain your assets, and the asset value is those existing patients. Build the bread and butter, build the relationships with them, and then focus in the other areas.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where like the nurturing comes in. That's where, when we're designing a campaign or a marketing strategy with our dentists, we and the teams, we ask them, like, what is the dentistry that you love to do, because that's what we're going to target. And we have practices that, obviously do more than 20 new patients per month, and we have practices that are like, listen, we need 65 new patients per month, because we have a production goal that needs to feed
Absolutely.
a practice that has multiple different chairs. So there's so many answers to this question. Like you said, Naz, it comes down to what is the goal of the practice, and what do we want to achieve, and then what type of dentistry do we want to do. And if we were focusing on that, like you said, that specific type of dentistry, then we know that we need that quality patient, that ideal patient. And that's where all this SEO and paid traffic or paid per click comes in handy, and that's where our nurturing supports patients that need to make decisions. So Ben, how are we doing? Do we have any more questions coming in? No more questions. Let's give it another second. Fantastic. Again, Naz, I just want to thank you so much. It's a pleasure working with you. This is fantastic. This has been a great webinar for me, because working with you, we learn a lot. And I hope that you guys out there got the same value. If you'd like to have an audit for yourself, just give myself or Naz an email, or you can always call me anytime. So thank you again so much. Naz, anything you want to say to anybody?
I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure being here with you, Brian. Thank you so much for your time as well. I really appreciate the work that you put in for our clients, and the results that you are providing for them as well. The mutual campaigns we have are fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Naz. Thank you, guys. We're going to sign off. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.